Welcome to our episode on leaders. And this time, for all of you who are watching, we have Aliza Ayaz with us. She is the youth ambassador for the UN on sustainability development goals. She is also the second of the young Pakistanis, just after Malala Yousafzai. She holds this position, and we're very proud to have her here with us. Aliza is a Pakistani climate crisis activist. I'm sure there's a lot you want to say to our audience, and I'm going to start off with the questions. Okay, so tell us a bit about yourself. You've accomplished a lot at a young age. And when did you first realize what you wanted to do?
Sure. Thanks for inviting me today, Farhad. Just carrying on from the bio introduction that you mentioned, I am the youngest United Nations Youth Ambassador. I share the stage with the likes of Leonardo DiCaprio, Emma Watson, Victoria Beckham, and Malala Yousafzai. And we're advocating for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are really important for everyone across the world. I am also a full-time student studying infectious disease epidemiology at University College London, so very relevant to the pandemic. I am based in London, but home for me is in multiple cities. I realized what I wanted to do in life was to help people at a very young age, recalling from my earliest memory really, to share my privilege, no matter how small or big, because it never sat right with me to keep it all to myself. And there are so many people that could use some more love, more warmth, more help, more guidance, more finance. And as I was moving around from one country to another, it just became clearer and clearer how wide the disparities are in health, in education, in fruitful social policies, unfair economics, and bad politics.
Great, thank you. What are the most important sustainable development goals you're working towards?
So I think out of the 17 SDGs, I think all are important, but the beauty of the SDG 13, which I focus on, tackling climate change, is that you can achieve all of their SDGs through that one SDG. So talk about sanitation, about clean water, about gender equality, education for all, eradicating poverty. They're all part of climate action. And solving the climate crisis doesn't just mean decreasing the annual rise in temperature. It means equipping people of color, all genders, marginalized groups, refugees, the capitalist, everyone with the right mindset to share the resources for taking on a new normal, a new sustainable lifestyle through a spectrum of climate action efforts.
Okay. We see younger people becoming more being included and demanding to be included in global decision making to combat global warming. So what are your comments on this?
I think climate action frequently receives criticism for predominantly appealing to the West and middle class. It appears that most likely to suffer under the consequences of climate change for a range of reasons are not as active in the discussion, and youth are part of that problem. So however long into Pakistan's low carbon journey, which is not long by the way, now is the time to reflect on what's worked, what hasn't, and how we tackle the very much more that still needs to be done in terms of diversity, consumerism, and shifting mindsets. So three things. I think it's very easy for the sustainability movement to shout louder at everyone else, run your businesses differently, introduce law, consume less, and no one is wrong for doing this. We really are running out of time on so many issues, but let's also look inwards and ask ourselves, why, when the inequities and risks of today's educational and economic structures are so obvious to us, do so many people, institutions plow on, slamming towards the cliff edge?
Okay. You organized the first sustainability symposium. Could you elaborate and tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. So very simply, the concept is that because of climate action, we need more pace and we need more scale. The symposium follows on the passionate belief that we need a fundamentally different way of doing business, one that's good for consumers, colleagues, citizens, customers, community, society in general, and the planet alike. But equally passionate that this change won't just happen because we want it to happen. We must make it so. And this was my thought process when I was launching and founding the Climate Action Society as an individual. And I realized actually I can stereotype this to a lot of us, no matter what segment we belong to. And that's what we at CAS, the Climate Action Society, do. We make things happen, not just in business, but across sectors, across the economy. And above all, I believe that every one of us has a role to play in sustainable change with the right support, mentoring the leadership, and that's what we do at the Symposium.
So what's the best advice you received?
One of the best advices I've received was from my father, Muhammad Ayaz. He was around the time that I started building my NGO, which is now an international company. I was potentially going to take a job at McKinsey because it was scary not having an income. And he told me, Aliza, if you're not going to bet on yourself, how is anyone else going to? It was an eye-opening moment for me, and I didn't take any other job and focus on building my climate action organization internationally from that date forward. If I hadn't bet on myself and taken his advice, I would have probably taken a bit longer to reach a level I'm in today and been not so confident in the potential of myself as an individual or the youth.
Okay. How aware do you think is the youth of Pakistan when it comes to climate change? And how would you advocate and promote the knowledge about climate change over here?
The youth in Pakistan is very sparingly aware, which is bad news, and it's almost a privilege of knowledge. You learn about climate change in books and in lectures, and in Pakistan, this is exclusive to those privileged to have received a good education, predominantly the middle class. We have, however, made progress in the last years through news headlines and different educational segments, as well as social media. And climate action is increasingly addressing the social implications of climate change and pollution. I hope the public and private sector partnerships explore how individuals, communities, businesses, and nations can work to put social equality and poverty eradication at the heart of our climate agenda. I think that's key to success there.
You were recently invited on CNN by Christian Amanpour to speak on climate change. Tell us about your experience there.
Just surreal. That experience was just surreal. To be honest, leading up to it, I was interviewing with platforms that were 20,000 people big, world-renowned news agencies, magazines, to get the word out there and for the recognition that I was receiving. But with Amanpour, it hit home. I used to watch Dad watch Amanpour as a kid, and I would think to myself, I want to be this cool and talk about cool, important things on TV so Dad can be proud of me. And I want to show the world how cool I can be. And so when I received the invitation, I was overjoyed. I really did feel like a child. I was very excited about being interviewed by the one and only Christian Amanpour. And to top it off, I was speaking alongside an ex-president of an actual country.
Yes, that's true. Okay, so what would you attribute your success to?
My faith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my parents, namely Muhammad Ayaz and Dr. Rana Najmi, the stories of my belated grandparents who I never met, so stories of my Nana, Nani, my Dadi, of their resilience, so many different anecdotes.
Okay, so Aliza, please tell us, I'm sure you're in your third year right now, if I'm correct, at University College London. And how are you managing to do all this wonderful work along with studying?
It's a big ask because there's always pressure on myself, which is positive pressure to do as much as I can from my time that I have. I think 24 hours in a day is a lot of time, and I want to make sure that I'm getting my 8 hours of sleep, but I'm also enjoying some downtime, but then also making the most out of the time I have in terms of working. And when I say work, I don't just mean academic work. I think just growing up, my work ethic has been such that I don't think education is limiting. I don't think school or university classes, because they're slotted in time and the assignments we have, that doesn't mean that's all you're meant to do. I think despite being a full-time student, you can combine a lot of your passion and interest and find time outside to contribute to other causes, whether voluntarily or involuntarily. The trick that I adopt is, of course, my calendar, which has slotted in everything from personal time to professional time, and I literally do slot in time, like catch up with my best friend or going out for ice cream. I really do that. I know it's really funny, and sometimes it's like micromanaging yourself, but that's what it keeps me on top of things, and it makes me feel good about myself. And there's never been a day which hasn't consisted of a variety of emotions, and every day I go to bed feeling really satisfied, and every day I wake up really energetic. Yeah.
Okay, any key moments in your life, and or even like special people you've mentioned, but any key moments that have influenced you along the way?
Well, I think the key moment that made me think, oh, Aliza, like you need to take this seriously and you really need to do something about this problem was during one of our dozen charity drive tours. I was in high school in Pakistan, and I remember it was during the heat waves that struck Karachi and killed lots of people. We visited her with a bunch of my friends, about 200 people. The wells had dried up, and I could just see people really fighting death, and it was all because of climate change. I think that was a key defining moment. Other key defining moments are also happy moments. When I saw smiles on the faces of my loved ones because of an achievement, being called for recognition at the UK House of Lords, and watching people give me duas as part of the charity work, it really did warm my heart. And the people that influenced me, I know I keep repeating this, but my parents have been the single most important influence of my life. My sister, who's 16, my older brother, my best friend. I learned so much from them about being a better person, about being easy on others and myself, navigating life right. And I think it's so true when people say, if you've got the right social support at home and in your social circle, you really can get whatever you want in life.
Yeah, that's very true. So a woman that inspires you.
So someone who's pretty much single-handedly led the COVID response at our hospital, my mother, Dr. Anna. She does an intense, critical job. She's been doing so for the past many years, saving lives through her medicine practice.
So if you were to advocate one change, what would that be?
Lots of things need to be done, but I think in general, a new manifesto that introduces a new mindset, one that recognizes it's not enough to study, campaign, and plan. We need to engage everyone in the imperative for an opportunity of sustainable change. Fundamentally, I think it's about relevance to people's lives, relevance to them as students, staff, citizens, consumers, parents, partners, neighbors, colleagues, voters, investors, and we're achieving that slowly but surely. It has seemed, despite the scientific evidence of harm being compelling and a route forward to a sustainable future being mapped on paper, we didn't have enough pace and scale in making sustainable change happen. Many individual products, brands, companies, cities, etc. are getting better, but they've remained, in the grand scheme of things, individual, isolated examples. We need the whole institution, the economy, and the whole society to change and do it fast.
Great. So, Aliza, coming to our last question, a very important one. What are your future plans?
To continue making my family proud, present and future, to keep fighting for positive social impact. More tangibly and gratefully, I have multiple options, working with the UN or for a corporate consultancy. I know my passion lies in health and environment, but also my curiosity lies in how to make businesses be smart about real estate, retail, cosmetics, food, and so on, to adapt any sustainable change. I guess we just have to wait and see.
Okay. And what would you say, what advice would you like to give to the youth of our country, Pakistan, and all the youth in general?
I think reflect, evaluate, and do whatever you think of firsthand. I think there's going to be a lot of success and a lot of failures, a very bumpy road. And just remember that you can individualize climate action, no matter whether you're a financier or a banker or a lawyer or a doctor. Climate change is still relevant to you. So if you reflect about your personal consumption, about your social circles, about the way you're adapting life, about your travel plans, I know it can be very overwhelming to incorporate changes there. But take it one step at a time, and just remember there's people around you who depend on you. Don't forget about them.